Ooh, y'all. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Remember, subscribe is the vibe. Your boy's on the road to 10K. Humbly. The like button is like, the subscribe button is earned. We got the most perfect heist of all time, bro. I ain't gonna front. I always feel like bank robbers and criminals that have the intentions of robbing a bank. To me personally, I'm a regular dude, so I really don't care. The way the system goes hard on people that steal money, call me old school, but I just think, yo, bro, at the end of the day, y'all can replace it, bro. You know what I mean? Like, you guys literally be printing money. You guys be printing money. I know for a fact y'all be in cahoots with the government and y'all have all these different agreements, these under the table agreements and this, that, and the third. So, but yeah, to me, honestly, robbing a bank ain't really a big deal. As long as you're not pistol whipping, shooting, you know, I'm kidnapping at the same time. If it's just a quick in and out and we out, it ain't a big deal. Like I don't know anybody that didn't grow up even envisioning possibly getting away with a bank robbery. Like, if someone threw you a sack of bread, I'm pretty sure, you know, I mean, you might ask a question or two, but you're gonna take it and figure it out later. You know what I'm saying? A part of me almost admires bank robbers. You know what I mean? Is that a little toxic? Because I'm not gonna lie, bank robbers are literally doing something that we've all probably thought about doing it. They just got the cojones to go through with it. But once I started seeing them attach dog years to those sentences, I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'll figure it out. I'll pay my taxes. They be trying to give y'all 15, 20 years for just stealing money? Money? But nonetheless, we're gonna get right into it. This is the perfect heist of all time. All time?
It doesn't pay. Well, except for when it does. And that is when you've pulled off an amazing heist. I present to you some of the greatest heists in human history. Some ruined in the craziest ways imaginable, and others so well executed they remain unsolved to this day. The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist. $500 million. Art theft is hardly the most novel heist out there. Several important pieces of art have been pilfered from homes and museums all over the world. But an art heist worth $500 million? Now that's something worth talking about. On the night of March 18th, 1990, two men posing as police officers forced their way into the museum and made off with over $500 million worth of some of the world's finest paintings and drawings. Eccentric art collector Isabella Stewart Gardner had so nobly opened her magnificent Boston home to the public to display her impressive art collection. And frankly, impressive is an understatement. Gardner's collection was made up of masterpieces such as Rembrandt's The Storm in the Sea of Galilee, Jan Vermeer's The Concert, and other similar timeless masterpieces. Her impressive art collection was assembled after a lifetime of travel and hard work.
You want to know one thing I never understood? We live in a world where, like, how can something that's that old be worth $500 million? I'm just talking about art, right? Whether someone took the time to make a statue, someone took the time to make the Mona Lisa. Old artifacts. The more time that passes, the higher the value goes up. Who determines these prices? The people? Because I'm trying to understand, how is art ever worth $500 million? And it's like, if you really think about it, you would think that the things that are upgraded or things that are redefined would be more expensive because they're new. Like, we pay more for new, but in retrospect, we also pay more for old too. And it's like, bro, like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Why does the value go up the older something is? It's old. Especially if we're talking about art. You could call me ignorant, but it's just art. I'm not trying to say art is worthless, but $500 million, man. Come on.
Work, which only made the ensuing art heist all the more devastating. On the night of the burglary, the two security guards who worked at the museum, Rick Abarth and Randy Hestand, were going about their business on a perfectly routine shift, blissfully unaware that they were about to witness the largest private property theft in American history. At 1:20 a.m., one of the security guards allowed what looked like two police officers to enter the museum who claimed that they were investigating a noise complaint. 11 minutes later, the two intruders had handcuffed and blindfolded both guards in the museum basement. At this point, it was obvious that these were not policemen. The burglars told them of their true intentions and warned them to stay quiet. And in true Robin Hood fashion, they even promised the security guards a reward in a year if they cooperated. With no one to interfere, the thieves went on a crime spree through the museum, stealing priceless paintings, sculptures, and drawings. They even grabbed a few worthless pieces of art. These thieves weren't exactly art snobs. They didn't discriminate. According to investigators, the burglars, in their haste to grab anything that looked expensive, actually overlooked some of the most priceless paintings and objects in the museum. That didn't stop them from becoming wanted criminals, though. In fact, the bounty on their heads was the largest ever offered by a private institution. Over the years, police have failed to find the men behind the art heist. They've investigated numerous international art thieves and local gangsters, all to no avail. No concrete evidence has ever surfaced. It would seem that these men just vanished into thin air. To this day, the stolen artworks have never been recovered.
Accomplished.
And the museum still offers a $10 million reward for any information leading to its recovery.
And this is another thing, bro. Like, if I'm gonna go this hard to pull off a heist, I gotta go directly for money, bro. Why am I stealing art? Especially if I'm like stealing something that's like one of one. If we're talking like maybe, what's the most expensive art that comes to mind? Like the Mona Lisa. If I decided to steal the Mona Lisa, wherever I sell it, they're gonna know I'm the one that stole it, or I know whoever stole it. Cause it's one of one. I don't care how much that shit is worth. If I steal it, then you know I'm the one culpable for it. You know what I mean? I'd rather go after the bag, baby. I'd rather go after the bag, wouldn't you? Know what I'm saying? I'd rather, hey, Mafia, these guys know something I don't know, but I'm not stealing art, bro. I'm not risking my freedom for paintings and statues, bruh. I don't care how much it costs.
Know what you're thinking. Did the security guards ever get that reward they were promised? Who knows? They sure wouldn't tell you. Mafia's $6 million Lufthansa airline robbery. Next up, we have a heist that could probably never be replicated.
You know this one nasty.
Today, not with our omnipresent surveillance systems, especially at the airports. But back in 1978, one of the biggest heists of the time was successfully pulled off, the Lufthansa robbery. Lufthansa is and was a German airline, and the plan was to rob it. This was perhaps the most valuable crime ever committed in the name of the American Mafia. The heist was largely orchestrated by a man named Louis Werner, an employee of the airline, a man who was saddled with an unfortunate gambling problem. Werner and his co-worker Peter Grunwald had long been planning to steal millions in unmarked banknotes from one of Lufthansa's regular shipments of cash. Now, this is where it gets a little bit complicated. Werner told his bookie, Martin Krugman, about the heist. Why? Well, that's because he owed Martin $20,000, and he intended to repay that debt with the money he would make from said heist. Krugman,
There's no honor amongst thieves. Imagine owing someone $20,000 and you repay them by stealing it from somebody else. Mafia.
Bookie then took the information to his acquaintance, and it ended up in the ear of a notorious gangster and feared associate of the Lucchese crime family, Jimmy the Gent Burke. Burke offered to organize the heist on behalf of his patrons in return for a sizable cut, of course. Basically, it was Burke's heist now. He handpicked a crew of associates, which included his own son, Frank. Together, they went off to the Lufthansa cargo terminal at John F. Kennedy International Airport in the early hours of December 11th, 1978. It was a quick and easy job. In just over an hour, the crew took 6 employees hostage and stole nearly $6 million in untraceable cash and jewelry. That's about $23.4 million in today's money. The heist itself wasn't the problem. The aftermath, however, was a different question. It all came undone when their getaway driver, Edward Stax Parnell, screwed up monumentally. Instead of taking the Ford Econoline van they used in the heist to a Marbone scrapyard in New Jersey, Parnell left it parked in front of his girlfriend's house in Brooklyn. This was a pretty grave oversight, no doubt.
Bruh, you got one job. There's always that one. There's always that one. Every single heist, every single bank robbery, any single time you see multiple people committing one crime, there's always that one guy that they just say, yo, you drive the car. Don't enter the building. Don't you touch shit. Don't you talk to nobody. You just drive, bro. This man was the guy that you just couldn't trust to do nothing. You had one job. Drive. We done got away with $23 million. Get rid of the van. Drive and get rid of the van. What do? You park it outside your... You park it outside your woman's house. After we done stole $23 million, you gonna park the getaway van in front of your woman's house. That was me, he'd be sleeping with the Fishers. That's just me. That's just what Gabos would do. Park it outside your goddamn woman's crib, man.
No doubt. And it sent Jimmy the Gent Burke into a very ungentlemanly paranoid frenzy. He ordered the murders of all but 5 of the 13 heist participants to cover his tracks. Ironically enough, Jimmy Burke did eventually go to prison, but on charges completely unrelated to the Lufthansa heist. In the end, the only person to serve time for the heist was Louis Werner, who spent 15 years behind bars for the monumental crime of tipping Burke and his gang off. Only a small portion of the stolen money was ever recovered, and the fate of the rest of the fortune will probably never be known.
Gone.
The $100 million Belgian diamond heist. The city, Antwerp. The country, Belgium. This was the stage for an incredibly audacious diamond heist. The thieves were going to hit Belgium's diamond district, a place that sells roughly 80% of the world's rough diamonds every year, aka the perfect target. The mastermind behind the operation was a professional thief named Leonardo Notarbartolo. Hitting the largest diamond district in the world was exactly up his alley. The plan was set in motion 3 years before the actual heist, back in the year 2000. Notarbartolo rented the largest office building in the diamond center he would later be robbing. He even began a completely legitimate trade as a jeweler, but that was just his cover. He was playing the long game. Notarbartolo used this time working in the diamond center to memorize every detail of the building and its security. He assembled a team of thieves with varying skills who had perfected their art in robberies throughout Europe. There was the electronics and alarms expert Elio Donorio, the mechanic.
This is the guy that they make movies about, you know what I mean? Like, my son done bought an office not too far from the actual spot and pulled up like he's some type of jeweler while he's scanning and blueprinting the infrastructure so he could carry out his master plan. These are the guys that they make movies about, bro.
Mechanic and lockpicker
Bring it back a little bit.
Electronics and alarms expert Elio Donorio, the mechanic and lockpicker Ferdinando Finotto, and Notarbartolo's childhood friend Pietro Tavano. The final member of the crew was a mysterious key forger known only as the King of Keys. Between the crew and the diamonds were 10 layers of state-of-the-art security, which included, but was not limited to, multiple cameras that filmed inside and outside the vault, a vault door strong enough to withstand 12 hours of drilling,
how'd they get
a
in?
light sensor that would trigger an alarm, and a heat and motion sensor that would also trigger an alarm. Yet, despite these odds, on the night of February 16, 2003, the gang penetrated all 10 layers of security using an assortment of basic materials you can find in your local mall, like hairspray, a broomstick, and electrical tape. The crew made away with jewels worth anywhere from $100 million to over $400 million. They escaped and split up to make their way.
Imagine paying the amount of money that you would have to pay in order to create that security. The surveillance, the heat detectors. You can't pass gas without setting off some type of alarm. They got these things under wraps. And you mean to tell me these thieves went to Walmart, bought some duct tape and some hairspray and came off with $400 million? Who do I gotta fire, bruh? Who do I gotta fire? I've been bamboozled.
Way back to Italy. It would have been the perfect heist too, if it wasn't for one tiny slip up.
Oh my
Pietro
God.
Tavano, Notarbartolo's childhood friend, was tasked with destroying the evidence. All he had to do was burn the leftover evidence from the heist, like receipts and empty jewelry bags. But instead, he elected to dump it in a forest. The bag of evidence was eventually found. The police were involved, and they managed to use a receipt from a shopping trip to track down Notarbartolo, who would get 10 years for the robbery, while the rest of the crew each got 5, except for the mysterious King of Keys. His location and the stolen jewels remain a mystery.
I'm not gonna front, that's not bad. 400 million, 5 years? That's not a bad trade-off. 400 million, I got 5 years. Okay, I mean, they ain't dog numbers, but
all the heists on this list, the 2003 Antwerp diamond heist deserves to be turned into a Hollywood thriller the most. The details of this heist have got many people, myself included, calling it the greatest heist of all time. The patriotic theft of the Mona Lisa. Next, we have the heist of one of the most widely recognized pieces of art in the world,
stole it?
the Mona Lisa, pulled off by a man named Perugia, the ex-handyman at the Louvre. Vincenzo Perugia was a man just shy of his 30th birthday, who worked as a handyman in the Louvre, the world's most visited museum and a cultural landmark in Paris. On the morning of August 21st, 1911, Vincenzo had a completely different intent when he came to work. Although it was his employment as a handyman that let him get away with his plan, Vincenzo was dressed appropriately in the uniform smock all employees wore at the time. He waited until the Salon Carré, the wing where Da Vinci's masterpiece was hung, was empty. Once the coast was clear, all he had to do was simply walk up to the painting, reach out, lift the wooden panel off the wall, and carry it into a nearby service staircase. There, he wrapped the surprisingly small 30 by 21 inch painting in his smock, tucked it under his arm, and just casually walked out. Not only is this the most brazen art theft I've ever heard of, but it's also one of the most unique ever. You see, Vincenzo didn't want to sell the art for millions of dollars, nor did he want to keep it in his house. No, His intentions, if he's to be believed, were a lot nobler than that. 2 years after the theft, Vincenzo had successfully taken the painting across the Italian border, where he offered it to a man named Alfredo Gheri, a gallerist in Florence, and was of course promptly arrested. When asked why he'd stolen the painting, he claimed that he did it out of patriotism. Apparently, Vincenzo was under the mistaken belief that the Mona Lisa had been looted by Napoleon's troops in the 1790s, when in reality the painting was actually given as a gift to the King of France in 1516.
And you thought that was your problem? Hold on, what? 15 what?
In reality, the painting was actually given as a gift to the King of France in 1516.
The Mona Lisa is over 500 years old? The Mona Lisa, I'm sitting here talking about old this and old that. The Mona Lisa is over 500 years old?
His motivation might seem a little doubtful. After all, he did ask Alfredo Gheri for money in exchange for the painting. Regardless though, his story worked. When put on trial, the court agreed that he committed his crime for patriotic reasons and gave him a lenient sentence. Vincenzo was sent to jail for 1 year and 15 days, but was hailed as a great patriot in Italy and served only 7 months in jail. The Mona Lisa was displayed throughout Italy before returning to the Louvre in 1913. Funny enough, when Vincenzo stole it, the Mona Lisa was one of Da Vinci's least known, least impressive, and least valuable works. This particular heist changed all of that, and now it's worth at least $870 million. Leonardo da Vinci is without a doubt one of history's best known artists, and his most
This is what I'm talking about with this old stuff, bro. Leonardo da Vinci made this 500 years ago, and it's worth $870 million. $870 million for a painting that you just gonna put on the wall and it's just not gonna do nothing. It was made 500 years ago. Nobody cares. $870 million. Who determines the price and the values for some of these stuff? And the price went up because it was stolen? Who makes these rules? What?
Most famous painting, the Mona Lisa, is without a doubt his most iconic masterpiece. Basically, it was the perfect target for a heist, and this particular bit of thievery was quite brazen. The 300 million yen Japanese bank heist. To top it all off, I bring you the greatest bank heist in Japanese history. It involved a plan so simple and yet so intricate that the perpetrator was never found to this day. The year was 1968. It was the 10th of December and people were going on about their day. It was business as usual. Well, except for the fact that one of the most trusted banks in Japan, the Nihon Shintaku Ginko, was robbed of 300 million yen, worth about $3 million today, in the blink of an eye. Like any good heist, this one was planned meticulously and took a long time to implement. It started off when the manager of the bank and those around him started receiving numerous direct death threats over a few months. As time went on, they were getting more intense. Just 4 days before the actual heist, a letter was sent to the manager's personal residence demanding 300 million yen or his house would be blown up by dynamite. At this point, the police had to be notified. This was a very serious threat after all. Police surrounded both the manager's house and the bank, keeping a very close eye for any potential intruders. This was all part of the plan. The manager had to send 4 of his employees to the nearby Toshiba factory to make a scheduled drop of roughly 300 million yen, packed together in the trunk of a company car. Not long after leaving the bank, the 4 employees could hear police sirens coming closer and closer to their vehicle. It was a police officer riding a motorcycle who immediately screeched to a halt in front of the car. What was going on? Well, according to the policeman, the bank manager's home had just been blown up, with several people injured and some presumed dead. And worst of all, the perpetrator was still on the loose and had issued additional threats, meaning the bank was now a target and the employees themselves were at risk. The officer then went down to the ground to search underneath the car. Moments later, one of the employees noticed smoke coming from the car, which could only mean one thing: there was a bomb. Before the policeman could even roll out from underneath the vehicle, both employees had already taken to their heels and ran as far away as they could from the vehicle. They took cover behind a nearby wall and waited for an explosion.
He pulled off. I called it.
By the time they came out of cover, the car was gone.
Gangster!
The so-called policeman. It turns out it was an incredibly well-planned heist. The bank manager and his house weren't harmed. It was a signal flare used to mimic dynamite. There were about 120 pieces of evidence deliberately planted at the scene to throw off the police. And of course, that was no policeman that stopped the vehicle in the first place. The case still remains unsolved, with no suspects, and yet an investigation that led nowhere. So, what exactly happened? If you enjoyed this
Gangsta.
video, you should click on a video on the screen.
Gangster.
It's
And
crazy.
this is what I'll be telling y'all, bro. And the thing I love about the word genius, we often want to associate it with people that are innovative and people that do good. But the word genius can be, it doesn't discriminate. You know, genius applies to good and evil. It applies to good and evil. We only want to think that the word genius applies to good, but like, nah, bro. You could be a mastermind genius. Some of these heists that were pulled off, we gotta keep it a bean. Like the ones that actually got away, you know what I mean? It's genius. It just so happened to be in the sake of a crime, but it is what it is, man. Appreciate you guys. If you made it to the back end of the video, please hit the like button for more content. I'm gonna holler at you guys in the next video, and I hope you guys enjoyed this, man. Let me know in the comment section, you know, what your favorite heist was. The last one was probably my favorite one. You know what I mean? I ain't gonna front. That was ingenious. Act like the car was about to blow up, get them to skirt out the way, and then peel off with their whip with $3 million in the back. I'm gonna holler at you guys in the next video. Mamba out.